Welcome to Mark and Pramala's kitchen. Today we're going to make a brown stock, which is one of the fundamental stocks that is used in French cooking and also in many other cuisines. The French call it un fond brun, and it is the basic sauce that is the starting point to one of the 5 mother sauces. From this stock we develop the sauce espagnole, and we also make the sauce veloutée. The sauce is applied in many different applications. It can be used in sauces, it can be used in soups, in France specifically the French onion soup, and also a variety of other soups and condiments. So let's get on with it. It's a long process. It's a process that takes typically over 12 hours. You're not going to be working 12 hours, but you're going to follow a process that takes in excess of 12 hours. So let's get at it and let's get our bones together, and in the kitchen we go. As you can see, we have 2 trays with bones that we are going to prepare. On the left side we have the neck bones. They are neck bones from beef. If you're able to get hold of neck bones from veal, that would be even more desirable. I don't have access to that today. On the right I have a couple of old turkey necks that I had laying around. I have 2 marrow bones from beef also. The marrow has been removed. We have a bone, a long bone from a leg of lamb actually, and I have another bone from a cured leg of lamb, which is a little bit salted, but it's going to add a tremendous flavor to it. What the paste will do in the cooking process, it is when we put it in the oven for a long time, it is going to become a very dark, almost blackish, have a very blackish type of color, and it's going to give the bones a very natural flavoring. But in addition to that, it is going to make them totally brown and dark, and that is one of the things that is going to make the sauce, if you will, or the stock that we're making, it's going to make it dark and brown. So when you have a brown stock, that stock is brown because the bones that you are putting in to the cooking process, those bones are have been cooked and browned, and they have been coated with tomato. This process, of course, was refined early on in the 19th century by the French, and is part of the master sauces. I've got this pretty much laid out, and now we're going to transfer the bones over to the metal tray that we have. I'm taking my bones, my neck bones, beef neck bones, and I'm spreading them out on the tray. I don't want to crowd it too much, so the excess bones that don't go on here will go on the neighboring tray with the couple of lamb bones that I had there and the marrow bones, which will not be coated, by the way, because we want the natural brownness from those bones. You could also take these bones and you could put them on a very hot grill, season them with pepper. Do not put any salt on it at any given time. We'll talk about that later. And you could brown them on the grill. You could put some rosemary on them. You could put some pepper, and just put them on a very hot grill, and you would have a very good flavor. Also, you wouldn't have the tomato, which you wouldn't need at that point because you have the brownness from the grill, and at that point they're coming out just about charred and very brown. I'm going to take the remainder here and I'm going to put it on the neighboring tray here. And in they go, 1 hour at 400 degrees, and we're going to turn them around at the half hour and add a little broil. This is how our bones look like after 30 minutes in a 400-degree oven. I am now going to put them back in again and put them on broil on that same side for about 4 or 5 minutes. And here are the bones after about 5 minutes of broil. You can see that they're totally charred, they're burnt, and they're black. I have turned them around and I am going to put them in for another half hour at 400 degrees. And in goes our second tray with the femur bones, the 2 lamb bones, and the remainder of the beef neck bones. 400 degrees for 1 hour. Again, we're going to broil at the half hour and broil at the end. Here we see both trays with the bones. We can see that the beef bones are fairly charred. Don't be afraid of that. That's the way they should be. Don't panic. We want them dark, we want them brown. These are going to boil for a long time in water, and they are going to have their juices extracted. This is the femur bone. We're going to take that one and split it in two right here so we can get the bone marrow out, and we're going to try to do the same thing with the back end of a large cleaver. We're going to crack them open. These are browned as much as we want them browned, and we have the remainder of our neck bones on the second tray right here, so we're ready to put them into our stock pot. We have here some Brazilian green pepper. You can use black pepper if you would like to. I like the Brazilian pepper because it's not too overpowering. We're using, for this amount, we're using about 12 juniper berries. We are using 1 dry chile de árbol that we're going to put in the onion, and with that in the onions we are going to clove them with 6 cloves. We have 3 onions, so that'll be 2 for each. We have 2.5 bulbs of garlic that we're going to cut up and put in. We have here about 4 to 5 leaves, bay leaves. We have some rosemary that has been chopped up, fresh rosemary, not too much, but 2 branches cut up in 2, so we have 4 little pieces. We have here a turnip, which is going to be peeled and diced and put into the soup as well. We have a good bunch of celery that we're going to put in, also going to be cut up. We have carrots. We have a pound of carrots, 454 grams to be exact. We have also a stalk of celery, an entire stalk. We are going to remove the bottom part and we're going to slice it up and put it in. We have also a bunch of Italian flat leaf parsley, and we have about 6 or 7 green onions which will be cleaned and prepped. And then we have a tiny twig of mint, which we have for good measure. It will give a delicious background flavor to our stock. Here we have a fennel. Usually you will cut out the fennel in a V shape so that you don't get the tough root from it. It's a fairly tough and bitter portion of the fennel. We're going to keep it in because we want that, and we're going to use only the bottom third or the bottom half of the bulb. We're going to reserve the other half for some other cooking. Then we have 3 good size yellow onions. It is time to prepare our vegetables. We are going to start with the green onions. Cut off the tips. I have 6 of them right here. Put that in a reserve bowl, and then we're going to cut them in 3 pieces. And I have a vegetable bowl on the side that I put them in. Like that. Then we'll do our carrots. These are relatively small carrots, however they are organic. So I am going to cut them in pieces like that. I reserve that in my bowl, and I'm moving on with my parsley, my flat leaf Italian parsley. which I'm also cutting up in large chunks, throwing that in there. I'm going to do the same thing with the mint, just roughly chopping that up and putting that in, and the same thing with the cilantro that has been cleaned and prepped. It is ready to go. It goes in, and those are my leafy greens. I'm going now to the fennel. I am going to cut about so much off of it, and I'm going to cut the bottom end a little bit here, just because it's dirty and it's been out in the grocery store, but it has been washed. I'm going to cut it up in 4 chunks like that. I have here my turnip. It needs to be peeled. There is a lot of crevices on this thing where sand can hide. We want to make sure we get it all out. We quickly just peel it. We get the worst of it off, as such. And we are going to dice it up, first in half, then in half again, and then in 6 pieces. In half, then in 6 pieces, and that is that. Now we're going to take our red onion, our yellow onion. We're going to cut off the tips. We can leave the skin on, the skin doesn't bother us, but we are going to star it as such. I make a sextile shape on the end of the onion, and I clove it. On one end I stick in a clove, and I make sure that it's well in there. I do the same thing on the other side. I star it, I make a sextile, and I take a clove and I clove my onion so that the clove scent will slowly release inside the onion, and it will improve the scent of my stock. I'm going to take this chile de árbol, a little dry chile, and I'm going to stick it in here as such, in the same way that I did with the cloves. And I have a 20-quart stock pot that has been filled with room temperature water, approximately at half point. Into the stock pot I'm now going to put all my charred or burned bones, blackened, one by one. Remember, you have to start with cold water. You cannot start with hot water, because it will not fulfill the process we need for the bones. The bones have got to release their fat from the beginning. I'm going to split those bones before I put them in. And here's my second tray that is going to go in, just like this. Don't be worried about black pieces. They will skim up to the top, they will be removed. We're going to filter the stock before it's conserved. And once we have everything in, here are my little turkey necks that I had. You might say this is not 100% stock from beef. No, there's a couple of turkey necks out there. There we go. Now that I have that going, I'm going to turn my stove top to very high heat, and I'm going to bring it to a boiling point. I have now put all the pieces of meat into the stock pot, and you can see how the stock is clearly very dark brown already from the burnt meat and the burnt tomato paste. 40 minutes later, our stock is starting to boil. It is time to skim and to start removing the foam on the top, which is fat that has risen. Using a flat ladle or a flat spoon, you go around the edges and you just skim off the foam. It is very important that you put particular good attention to this process, because your stock will be much better if you have absolutely no foam inside. I'm now going to go to the bottom and stir the bones to agitate it to see if we can get a little bit more fat out. And we're going to repeat the second skimming in a little bit before we move on and add the vegetables. 10 minutes later, we have a little bit more foam accumulating. We're going back in again with our ladle. We can see that the color is very, very dark. There's much less foam to be removed, and we are ready to add our vegetables. There's nothing else in here. It's a fairly clear stock at this point. And we are going to add the vegetables little by little, one by one, being careful not to disturb the boiling point. I have my big vegetable bowl here. We put in the 3 onions. We see that it's still boiling and everything is going alright. I'm going to throw the rest in like that. And with my ladle I'm going to push the vegetables to the bottom so that they get immersed. As you can see, I'm missing about 3 or 4 inches 3 inches maybe up to this edge here of water, so I'm going to add some water. But the most important thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the entire stock pot and I'm going to put it outside, where it will be reducing for approximately 8 to 10 hours. And during that time it is going to lose liquid. The reason I want to do it outside is because I do not want all the smell of the stock in the house. There's no need for that. I have a single electric plate outside on a glass table. I'm going to put it on there now, and it's going to have its own life now for the next 8 to 10 hours. My stock is outside. I have added water and I'm going to let it sit there for about 8 to 10 hours. We have our stock pot ready. It has been cooking now for 8 hours outside. It was covered with a lid while we cooked it, and the lid, we had a slight little opening so that the vapors can come out. As you can see, it has reduced substantially. We have lost a couple of inches. The high water mark where we had was up here, and it's now quite a bit down. There is a film on top of the stock because it has been sitting overnight. We're going to remove that film. It is a fat, essentially, that is not desirable in the stock, so we remove that carefully. And we rinse our ladle off. You can use a flat spoon or a ladle. As you can see, other than the film, there is not much fat here. And you can also see the reddish color which is generated from the tomato paste. We're removing all of that. We should be fine. That's good right there. We stop our water, and now we are going to strain the sauce I'm using a regular strainer, and I'm using a white container here that I can hold so that I can control the process. I keep that in my hand. This is the easiest way for me to do it here, and I'm slowly and carefully going to tilt it over and strain the stock. You can see how dark brown it is. Very nice stock. It has certainly had time to get the flavors of all the vegetables and the spices we have in here. I'm going to stop right there. This stock pot, which is a 20-quart stock pot, is going to generate about 3.5 to 3 3/4 volume of liquid. And now we have the first full cup here of stock that we're going to put into our little cups, and we're going to switch over to the counter. Let me show you how I store the sauces. As you can see, I have little cups, plastic cups that are frozen. They're labeled and they have a plastic cover on top of them to make sure that they are freezer protected. The reason we use these small plastic cups, which can be bought in large quantities for a very inexpensive price, is that we are not going to use all the sauce at one time. We are going to use it in sauces, and sometimes you will need 1 to 2 to 3 cups at a time, and it's very convenient to have it in a small container like that. We are also going to use larger containers for the times that we're making soups based on the broth. So I'm going to start by filling up here. This way you will see the whole process from beginning to end. It looks like we're going to have just about the right quantity for the number of cups we have here, which was not intended, but that seems to work out fine. Beautiful. Now we have the cups. Let's put the plastic film on and let's put the labeling on. This finishes the process of our brown stock. We have labeled it, we have covered it with plastic, and we have contained it. We are going to put it in the freezer, shelf it, and it is now ready for use. Good luck on your brown stock and happy cooking.